Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. Between now and August 10th, if you use this promo code, you will automatically be entered into a drawing where 4 winners will each win one of the Commander 2018 pre-constructed decks. See the description below for more details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Another big week for the market as we approach the third weekend now that Core Set 2019 has been legal and standard. Big changes to the standard format thanks to some of those cards, and as you can imagine, some price impacts. Commander 2018 is the other big story this week. Of course, we had previews all week, culminating in the deck list that we saw yesterday. So now we know everything that's being reprinted and everything, maybe more importantly, that's not being reprinted. And we'll talk more about it later in the video, but yes, overall, there's a little bit of disappointment when it comes to some of those reprints, which of course means a lot of secondary market cards are starting to heat up. Quickly before we get started though, you heard it at the beginning of the video, we are still running the promotion with Flipside Gaming, so check out the description below for all the details to see how you could win one of those Commander 2018 decks. And also, you'll find our Patreon page down there, as well as some product links for Amazon. These are all ways to help support the channel, but as always, your viewership is good enough for me, and I appreciate each and every one of you, whether you look at those links or not. So thank you, and let's get started. We're going to begin with the top 5 standard legal cards that have lost value this week. Number 5, Karn Sign of Urza, down $1.47 to $36. So this card continues to go down, which is good news considering its high price point. Part of that is just simply because as more cards get open, it's really hard for a standard legal card, especially in such a popular set, to maintain this kind of price point. So you will see it go down, at least slowly, over the coming weeks. The other thing to consider about this card is it's not doing a whole lot right now in standard. Very popular in some other formats, Affinity decks in Modern, for example, some Tron decks in Modern, as well as others in Legacy, Mono Red Prison. It's being tried out in a lot of places too. But when you look at the world of standard right now, I'd say Mono Blue Artifact is where this card's most popular right now, and that deck isn't exactly burning up the charts. It's not doing bad, and it could have a breakout week at any time, you never know. But at least for right now, there's some other decks that people are looking at a little bit harder. So because of the softness in standard, combined with more packs being opened of Dominaria, this will continue to go down more. Number 4, Tezzeret Artifice Master, down $1.76 to $18.47. Almost the same story here. This is in that Mono Blue Artifact deck. A lot of people had high expectations, high hopes for this card in that deck, or else the Izzet version of that deck initially. So far, it hasn't put up the big result people were hoping for. So because of that, this card is very soft. Number 3, Gideon of the Trials, down $2.65 to $11.35. And Gideon is rotating out this fall. That's part of the reason for the softness here. But also, he's not doing a whole lot right now in standard. I mean, control builds, every once in a while, you'll see a copy floating around. The big hope for Gideon this time around was going to be that white-black Knight deck. And week 1, it looked okay. But week 2, it didn't really have a repeat performance, so unless that deck can come back, I would expect this card to continue to drop sharply. When this does rotate, yeah, sometimes he does see a little bit of modern control play, but not enough to warrant a $10, $11 price tag. Number 2, Llanowar Elves from the Welcome deck for Magic 2019, down $2.91 to $4. We talked about this one in our Core Set Focused Market Watch about a week and a half ago. At one point, people were trying to sell this thing for $40. That was kind of insane, right? And you know what? $4, still kind of insane. The problem with this card is some people are gravitating towards it because it is a little bit harder to find since it can only be found in Welcome decks. That also really skews things when it comes to the online market because there's not a lot of LGS owners breaking up Welcome decks to sell singles online. It's just not happening. More are doing it now because of the big spike we saw a couple weeks ago. But up until that point, it just wasn't something that people were doing. And if anyone decided to list one of these cards on the online market, basically they could just set the price and create artificial inflation. And that's exactly what happened. The other thing that's got people kind of interested in this card is the fact that it is missing the line above the flavor text. A lot of people consider that a misprint. I kind of consider it more of an overlook than anything else. Because the thing you have to remember is misprints usually are worth money because they're unique and rare. Where this isn't all that rare. I mean, LGSs are getting copies of this. A lot of times error cards will be worth money because there's a correction and either the error or the correction is much harder to find than the other version. But that's not really what's going on here, at least not yet. So yeah, I think this really got kind of caught up in a hype storm and is finally coming down. Now, if you like this type of thing, like you like odd, hard to find, kind of weird, awkward cards, I would say buy it, but don't spend $4. Wait a couple more weeks. It'll probably be around $1 or so. Number 1 is Nexus of Fate, the Buy a Box promo, down 582 to 1708. So we're starting to pass the I don't want to miss out phase, and this card's getting a little softer. It has seen a little play here and there and has had maybe some limited success in small tournaments. I have seen some control decks running 3, sometimes even 4 copies of this, but I don't know if that's going to catch on. We haven't seen anything happen in any major tournaments, at least not yet. We also haven't seen this show up really in any competitive taking turns decks in Modern. Okay, let's move on to the top 5 standard legal cards that have gained value this week. Number 5, Sarkhan's Whelp, up 71 cents to $1.44. This is actually from the Planeswalker deck, so not in the regular core set 2019. So why is this going up 71 cents this week? Well, a couple of reasons. I have seen people using it in Brawl, Commander players as well. Sometimes will use this because it does interact with Sarkhans. But I have seen some standard brewers trying to make this work in like Mono Red Dragons. Will it get there? I'm a little skeptical, but at least this week some people are trying to figure it out. Number 4, Thorn Lieutenant, up 98 cents to $2.56. Maybe one of the best rares to come out of the set, quite honestly, when it comes to standard playability, because that green Stompy deck was really looking for a good 2-drop, and this turns out to be just what it needed. That deck got a lot better, partially due to this card, and it has a pretty nice week going up almost $1, even though it's a rare. It's not even a mythic, and with all the packs being open, it's still very strong right now. Number 3, Sun Sentinel, up $2.76 to $4. Okay, so this is another one of the cards that is only available in the Welcome deck, and once all the hype happened with the Llanowar Elf a couple weeks back, some other cards started to heat up. Now this is the one that is getting hot this week. Number 2 is Nicol Bolas, the Ravager, up $4.63 to $39.89. I'll tell you right now, this card had a huge week. Coming out of the second week of the new standard, which I know is still early, that Grixis mid-range deck with Whirler Virtuoso looks really strong, and this is a key part of that deck, usually like 3 of in the main. Also, Grixis Dragons is a thing, and that of course runs this card, even Grixis control decks. So between all the decks running Bolas right now, and especially the strength of that one particular one after the second week, this card has gotten really, really hot, and I think it's going to stay that way, at least for a few more weeks. Again, as more packs get open, things will stabilize, but there is a mad rush right now for players to get 3, even 4 copies of this. Number 1 is Sarkhan Fireblood, up $4.92 to $17.28. This card is also in that standard Grixis midrange deck, as well as some other standard Dragon decks, but maybe the big story here is the fact that this is performing really well right now in Modern. As a matter of fact, last weekend at the Star City Games Modern Classic, the deck that came in first place was a Skred Dragon deck running 4 copies of this, and there's been some other Modern Dragon decks running around the field too. Not to mention Legacy play, this card's been showing up in Mono Red Prism builds as well. So there's a lot going on right now with Sarkhan, and it's definitely being reflected in the price point. Okay, let's move on to some Modern legal cards, and much like the last few weeks, because Commander is so popular, and Modern is pretty stable and not doing a ton of new stuff right now, you are seeing more of those Commander decks creep onto these lists. It will be temporary, but you'll see a few on here. They're kind of the big story, though, of the week. Number 5, though, is Tarmogoyf from the first Modern Masters, down $2.92 to $74.95. This is all about Jund's inconsistency. Goyf's still a great card. It's played in a lot of really popular Modern as well as Legacy decks. But because Jund kind of is having trouble right now, we'll put up a nice result, then you won't hear from it for a couple weeks. And that has gotten people a little bit soft on some of the key cards like this one. Number 4, Mishin the Mind Cage, down $2.99 to $7.78. This card heated up last week quite a bit. It has a bounce back week now. And basically, 2 groups of people were looking at this. Some of the folks that were interested in the Adaptive Enchantment deck from Commander 2018 may have had some interest in this. But more importantly, and I think what was really pushing the price point, was the Arcades players. There are some Arcades cards that are still hot this week, but many are starting to stabilize as people are moving on to the Commander 2018 upgrade cards. Number 3, Nirkana Revenant, and this is the Rise of the Eldrazi version, down $3.04 to $14.34. And this is another Commander-centric card, great in those Vampire decks. However, it's going down because it got reprinted in Battle Bond, so it's a little bit easier to get a hold of right now for players. This actually did see a tad bit of Modern play in the past, so you never know with these cards, but right now this is all about Commander. Number 2, Cavern of Souls from Modern Masters 2017, down $3.21 to $85.72. This card has been spiking very aggressively over the last few months, so I'm not surprised to see it snap back a little bit here. Feels like it was maybe a little overdue for that. It has been the Humans deck most recently pushing this, but it's such a key card in so many important decks in Modern and Legacy that even though it's going down this week, I would expect it to recover and start trending back up really soon, at least until it gets another reprint. Number 1, good old Jace the Mind Sculptor back on our list. World Wake down $317 to $100 even. Eternal Masters down $472 to $85. So, like I said over the previous weeks, because Jace has been kind of solved now in Modern, the mystery's gone, people know where he's good, where he's not good, all the hype has subsided, so this card's been going down pretty dramatically. Also tie in the fact that Teferi has also taken over some of his spots in decks in Modern, so this card has become very, very soft. I do think World Wake eventually will settle in around $90, $95. Eternal Masters may be lower than I initially thought, perhaps closer to the $80 mark, so this is one to watch. It will continue to go down. Alright, let's move on to the top 5 Modern legal cards that have gained value this week. Greater Oromancy up $333 to $37. Here's a card that used to see a little Modern play in those Enduring Ideal decks here and there, but really this is all about Commander. More specifically, it's that enchantment deck in Commander 2018, Adaptive Enchantment. I have people looking for upgrades, and this is a good upgrade. Kind of wish that this got a reprint in there. However, because it didn't, and because this is from Shadowmoor, which of course was a set that had a lower print run comparatively, this card is heating up yet again. Number 4 is Karn Liberated for Modern Masters 2015. This is up $346 this week to $98.77. Karn's always a very hot card, but even as recently as the last couple weeks, that mono green Tron deck has looked really good in some major tournaments. So because of that, he gets a boost, not that he needed one, and again, this card's now closing in on that $100 mark. Number 3, the Chain Veil, as we bounce back to Commander, up $644 to $23.56. Couple of reasons this got hot. Initially, a lot of people thinking about how to use it with some of the new Planeswalkers that came out in the core set. We got a lot of Planeswalkers in that set. But more recently, especially this week, it's been all about Commander 2018 and those Planeswalkers. Since they were all revealed over the course of the week, this has a pretty big spike. Number 2, this card's exploding again. It's Engineered Explosives. Modern Masters up $961 to $99.99, with Fifth Dawn going up $10.56 to $98.31. I say it every week, this is a key part of so many Modern sideboards, and it's a key part of the main deck of Ironworks combo. And because of that, this card has gotten extremely hot, especially this week. I mean, look at that price jump. We're talking about a $100 card now when we talk about Engineered Explosives. That's crazy. And number 1 is, again, we bounce back to Commander, and again, specifically that Adaptive Enchantment deck. It's Enchanted Evening. What a nice name for a card. This is another Shadowmoor card, take note, and it's up $12.49 this week to $18.49. Okay, let's look at our Vintage Spotlight, and then we'll get back to more Commander cards, because I know what you came here to see. So let's quickly look at some of the buyouts and things that are going on in the world of Vintage cards, starting with Navineral's Disc from the Revised set this week, of $13.88 to $17.66. So yes, Revised Disc going up that much in 1 week. I kind of wonder if this is just a market anomaly, it might be a weird blip, or if somebody really thinks that buying out Revised cards is a good idea. If you're listening, it's not a good idea. Next is Vivictus Asmadi of $19.95 to $39.99. Now, all of the Elder Dragon Legends from Legends have been reprinted. None of them are on the reserve list, but the original copies are getting really hot right now. Not necessarily the reprints, but the originals, which makes me feel like maybe they're buyouts or collectors picking them up because of the extra attention on these characters, thanks to the new versions of them we saw in Core Set 2019. This one had an especially good week. Next is JM8A Tome from Unlimited, up $50.42 to $102.50. And so all the cards we're looking at today, actually, in this Vintage Spotlight, none of them are on the reserve list, so this one isn't either. It's been reprinted many times. But again, this appears to be part of that Unlimited buyout that's been going on. Land's Edge from Legends. This one's kind of interesting, up $54.19 to $96.01. This could be moving partially because people are interested in upgrading the Nature's Vengeance deck. That's the Jund Land Matters deck, quote unquote. However, because the Chronicles version of this card is not moving, I kind of feel like that this is not necessarily being moved by people actually wanting to play with it, but most likely moving more so by speculation based on that deck coming out. This card has been undervalued for a long time though, so this spike feels like maybe it was long overdue. And last card for this section, Lord of Atlantis from Unlimited, up $66.18 to $138.97. I mean, it's a great card, sees tons of play, and I can understand why the older versions might start to get a little more expensive, but this is a pretty big spike this week. Again, it feels like a buyout. Okay, let's move on to the Commander Spotlight. There's a lot of cards here, so I'm going to go through them really quick. Privileged Position from Ravnica, the original one, up $1.07 to $19.97. And of course, you guessed it, it's that Bant Adaptive Enchantment deck that's pushing this one this week. Oathsworn Giants, up $1.09 to $1.90. Here's one of the cards that's still hot from that Arcades deck. Wall of Junk, another one for the Arcades deck, up $1.33 to $4.39. The Gitrog Monster, up $1.61 to $4.99. This seems like as good a time as any to talk about the reprint issue when it comes to the Commander 2018 decks. I really thought this card would be reprinted. It seems like a no-brainer for that Jund Land Matters deck. Just because that Nature's Vengeance deck, could use this card. And the reprints they chose, some of them are really low value, just bulk cards. Something like this isn't necessarily even that expensive of a card, but would have resulted in some goodwill towards players because this is a very popular card. So it really just kind of confuses me why it wasn't there. Well, because it wasn't there, it's going up this week, as you can see. Now, aside from that, just generally, and I talked about this a little bit in the review of the first deck yesterday, there's a lot of disappointment among the community when it comes to the reprints they chose, especially considering the product is $5 more expensive this year. Those decks will cost you $39.99 as opposed to $34.99. So I feel like they missed the mark a little bit. I'm not expecting like fetch lands or anything to show up in these products, but some more cards that fall between the $10, $20 mark I think really would have been appreciated. Squandered Resources. Now this one is on the reserve list, so they couldn't put that in there, but another one that's going up because of the Jund Nature's Vengeance deck of $4.92 to $31.90 this week. Varshau's War Riders, up $8.26 to $12.97, another reserve list card. In the Exquisite Artifact deck, we finally got a card featuring Varchild, and it's really sweet actually, and it plays well with this one, so this has gotten some people's attention this week. Now, the other thing to consider though, is this card really that amazing if you upgrade the Exquisite Artifact deck with it? No, it interacts with that one card, but I will tell you this, it's just a cool old card to have, it's a fun interaction, and those Survivor tokens look really sweet in the new product. Opalescence, another reserve list card, and this one of course will fit nicely into the Adaptive Enchantment deck, the Bant one, up $12.79 to $34.99 this week. Scroll Rack, well, a little bit of love for Subjective Reality finally, up $13.41 this week to $45.69 for the Tempest version of this card. This is one of those cards that maybe was on the cusp of being a little too expensive to reprint in a Commander product because you don't want the situation where everybody just buys out the one deck because of value. But I felt like it was low enough to just skirt by. Unfortunately, that was not the case and this wasn't reprinted, so it goes up quite a bit this week. Sarah's Sanctum, up $15.19 to $178.88, another reserve list card here. This one has been hot for a number of weeks in anticipation of that Adaptive Enchantment deck. This sees a little legacy play too in Enchantress decks. Meekstone. Last week we talked about how all the various copies of Meekstone were spiking. A lot of those other versions have cooled off now, but the unlimited version stays hot, going up $18.26 to $62 this week. And of course, this makes sense in that Arcades deck. It's been very good there. All right, let's move on to our Pauper Spotlight. One card to look at. It's Rhystic Study, up 74 cents to $12.85. This is a popular card right now in a popular Pauper deck. Popular Pauper deck, that's hard to say. But it's in that blue-black deck, which is actually doing really well right now in the format. And that's part of the reason you're seeing the increase here. Also, some people thought this would show up in one of the Commander products this year, and it did not yet again. It fit into that sweet spot where I feel like, okay, a $12, $13 card, it feels like that would be a fine reprint for that product. Unfortunately, again, it just didn't happen. All right, that's the Market Watch for this week. I would expect more of the same next week. Standard will continue to evolve and I think be pretty hot. As we get closer to the Commander 2018 decks actually coming out, I do think as people put out more videos and articles about upgrade cards, which we're going to do later next week, then I feel like that's going to spark a lot of interest in some maybe cards people haven't thought of yet. So keep a close eye on the market. I think a lot's going to happen. But until next time, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.